Hey everyone, and welcome to another deep dive. Today we're going to be exploring some of the hottest topics in AI news.
Absolutely, and we're pulling straight from the source.
Yeah, I think Reddit, Twitter, those like AI-focused Discord servers,
That's right.
um, all those places where the real conversations are happening, and we're going to kind of distill it down, figure out like what really matters.
Exactly. What's the signal through all the
Yeah,
noise?
what's the signal through all the noise?
Yeah.
And we're also going to explore some of the questions that these developments raise about the future of AI.
Yeah, the so what,
Yeah, the so what.
for sure.
Okay, so first up, we've got a bit of a David versus Goliath story going on here.
Oh,
We've got DeepSeek, a Chinese company making waves by releasing their DeepSeek-R1.
I've heard some buzz about this.
Yeah, it's a massive 671 billion parameter AI model.
Wow.
Um, and they're saying it's really giving OpenAI a run for its money.
Yeah.
But here's the kicker. They've released it under an open source MIT license.
An open source model that can go head to head with like OpenAI's O1.
Yeah, I mean, what does that even mean for someone like me who's not an expert in AI?
It basically means accessibility is exploding, right? So now anybody can go and use these models, download them, and start using them, even potentially commercializing them. So it really does change the game in terms of who has access to this really cutting-edge technology.
671 billion parameters, like that's a mind-boggling number.
It's huge.
I mean, let's be honest, most of us are not running supercomputers at home. What are the chances of actually running something like this on a normal setup?
You're not going to be firing up DeepSeek-R1 on your laptop anytime soon. But the cool thing is that they also released a series of distilled variants of R1 ranging from 1.5 billion to 70 billion parameters. So these are kind of like more efficient, more compact versions that still pack a really impressive punch.
Okay, so we're talking AI that's a bit more approachable, a bit more
Yeah, user-friendly.
user-friendly, yeah. And these distilled models, are they just kind of like lightweight, or have they actually, been able to achieve some results?
No, they're getting some really impressive results, especially when it comes to math.
Okay, like what kind of math are we talking? Are we talking like high school calculus or something even more intense?
We're talking about benchmarks like Math 500 and AIM. So these are, pretty challenging mathematical reasoning tasks. And, what's really interesting is that some of these distilled models are actually outperforming, even larger models like GPT-4o on certain tasks.
So a smaller, more accessible model is outperforming, like the big guys.
Yeah, it's really shaking things up. And there's one distilled model, the 1.5 billion parameter version, that's particularly interesting. It actually surpassed GPT-4o on coding benchmarks, which has, sparked a lot of discussion about the capabilities of these smaller models.
So it's like the little engine that could, right?
Exactly.
But can a model this small really handle, complex tasks beyond just math and coding? I mean, is it a specialist or is it more like a jack of all trades?
That's a great question. And, every model has its own strengths and limitations, right? So I think we're still learning what these distilled models are truly capable of. But the early results are definitely intriguing.
Now, speaking of intrigue, there's another DeepSeek model that has everyone talking. DeepSeek-R1-Zero.
Oh, yeah.
It's rumored to be even bigger.
Between 600 and 700 billion parameters, they say.
Yeah, but there's a bit of a mystery surrounding this one.
Yeah, the details about the architecture and purpose are really scarce.
Yeah, it's like the silent giant lurking in the shadows.
For sure.
I mean, this lack of transparency, I mean, does this raise any concerns? As these models become more powerful and complex, how much do we need to know about their inner workings to really trust their outputs?
It's a great point, and it's a conversation that's gaining momentum. How much transparency do we need, and how do we balance that with, the need for, potentially protecting intellectual property and things like that? It's a really complex issue.
So DeepSeek's move kind of feels like a major boost for the whole open source movement.
Totally.
And it's not just them, right? I mean, we're seeing a surge of other open source models that are really stepping up to challenge the big players in the field.
Absolutely. It's really exciting to see.
Yeah, like take Kimi K1.5.
Oh, yeah.
It's excelling in multimodal tasks.
Which means?
So it can handle, both text and images.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah, and it's reportedly outperforming GPT-4o and Claude-Sonnet 3.5 in both code and math benchmarks, which is, pretty impressive.
Yeah, that's huge.
So, I mean, are we witnessing like a power shift in the AI landscape? Could open source models actually become the dominant force?
It's really hard to say for sure, but the open source community is gaining serious traction, and that has huge implications, I think, for accessibility, for innovation. Imagine a world where the development of AI is driven by this global community of collaborators, all contributing to this shared pool of knowledge and resources.
So it's like democratizing AI.
Exactly.
It's taking it out of the hands of a few powerful companies and making it accessible to everyone.
Yeah, and it's really exciting to see.
All this progress is incredible, but I mean, we can't ignore the hardware hurdles involved in running these massive models, right? I mean, it's not like everybody has a supercomputer sitting in their basement.
No, it's a good point.
So, like, how are people actually managing to run these things?
Well, there are some really interesting developments on that front. So, for example, one developer actually managed to run DeepSeek 671B using two M2 Ultras and a technique called 3-bit quantization. Basically, this helps to compress the model and make it run more efficiently, and they actually achieved near real-time speeds, which is pretty remarkable.
Okay, that's impressive, but I mean, let's be real. Not everyone has access to that kind of setup.
That's true, and it highlights this ongoing debate about running these models locally versus relying on cloud services. Cloud services offer accessibility, but local processing gives you more control over your data and privacy. So it's a trade-off.
So it really comes down to like, your needs and your resources.
Absolutely.
But speaking of resources, there's some exciting things happening in the LM Studio community.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they're all abuzz about integrating something called KV cache quantization. Have you heard about this?
Yeah, I've been following that.
Yeah, so this is a technique that can help these powerful models run more smoothly on, consumer grade hardware.
Which is huge because it means that more people can start experimenting with these models. It breaks down those barriers to entry.
Yeah, so we've got open source models shaking things up. We've got hardware advancements trying to keep pace. But what about the actual tools that people are using to leverage all this technology?
Yeah.
Let's talk about Windsurf for a second.
Okay.
It's an AI-powered code assistant platform that has been facing some pretty rough waters lately.
I've heard some grumbling, yeah.
Yeah, users have been reporting all sorts of performance issues. Everything from these cryptic, incomplete envelope errors to slow typing and just frustrating lag, especially since the 1.2.1 version update.
Yeah, I can imagine that would get frustrating, if you're in the flow and
Exactly.
it just kind of breaks down.
Yeah. And are these issues, I mean, are they limited to just performance or is there more to it?
So it's not just performance. There have been a lot of complaints about things like flow actions, cascading edits, and even limitations on using personal API keys. So, it seems like some users are feeling a little restricted in their ability to kind of customize and really make the platform their own.
So when a tool doesn't quite meet those expectations, I mean, it kind of opens the door for alternatives, right?
For sure.
I mean, what are some of the options that people are exploring?
So we're seeing competitors like Ithi emerge, and there are also some really interesting open source alternatives like Perplexica. So these tools are, kind of vying for attention, and they're offering features and flexibility that, might address some of the shortcomings that people have been experiencing with Windsurf.
So it's really that classic case of competition driving innovation.
Exactly.
So the windsurf situation, it really underscores the power of community feedback in shaping the development of these AI tools. I mean, what does this tell us about, the things that users are really looking for?
Yeah, I think it highlights this growing demand for performance, for flexibility, and just, user-centric design in this really rapidly evolving landscape. And, the users are really vocal about what they want and what they need.
So far we've covered the rise of these open source models, the hardware challenges, the kind of the dynamic world of AI tools. I mean, it's a lot to take in. It's all happening at breakneck speed. What can listeners do to kind of stay ahead of the curve and even participate in this AI revolution?
Well, I think the key is curiosity. Don't be afraid to dive in, explore these topics, experiment with different tools, and connect with those communities that are driving these advancements. There's a wealth of information out there. Research papers, discussions on Twitter, those lively Discord servers. Just immerse yourself in this world and see where it takes you.
And don't just keep those discoveries to yourself.
No, share what you learn.
Yeah.
Write blog posts, create tutorials, spark conversations.
I mean, your insights could really help others, navigate this complex and rapidly changing field.
For sure.
And we're all on this journey together. And the future of AI is being shaped right now. I mean, by
Yeah.
actively engaging with these technologies and contributing to the conversation, you can help shape a future where AI benefits everyone.
That's a great point.
So let's take a moment to kind of process all this excitement before we jump into the next part of our deep dive.
Yeah, take a breather.
We're going to be exploring the kind of philosophical side of AI and its impact on society.
Mm,
So stay tuned.
it's going to be good.
Yeah, it's going to be good.
It's fascinating to kind of witness how the conversation surrounding AI is evolving.
In what way?
Well, for a long time the focus was primarily on those like massive centralized models,
Right.
developed by giants like OpenAI and Google.
Yeah, and those companies still, I mean, they still wield significant influence, especially with, their vast data sets
Yeah.
and just the sheer, computational power that they have. But, the emergence of these open source models, it feels like it's shifting the landscape a bit.
It really is.
It's like a decentralized movement,
Yeah.
where anyone can contribute to the development and the advancement of AI.
It's kind of like a different set of values almost, right?
Yeah.
It's not just about who has access to the technology. It's about a different approach.
Yeah.
Open source models, they often prioritize transparency
Right.
and community involvement.
Yeah, it's about making AI, more accessible.
Absolutely.
Understandable.
Yeah. And ultimately more accountable, right?
Exact.
I mean, this kind of circles back to our earlier discussion about transparency.
Right.
The more we understand about how these models work,
Yeah.
the better equipped we are to address potential biases, unintended consequences, those kinds of things. You're absolutely right, but we also have to think about the other side of that, right? So transparency is crucial, but we also have to think about what are the implications of making this technology open source.
Right.
There are some legitimate concerns about misuse, right?
Yeah.
And the potential for people with malicious intentions to kind of exploit these models.
Double-edged sword, right?
It is.
Like any powerful tool, it can be used for good or for ill.
Yeah.
And we need to be thinking carefully about the safeguards and the regulations that need to be in place.
Absolutely. And we need to have those conversations now.
Yeah.
While the technology is still relatively young,
Yeah.
it's much easier to kind of course correct early on
Yeah.
than to try and fix problems, after they've already caused harm.
Right.
So shifting gears a bit,
Yeah.
let's talk about the hardware side of things. We've touched on the challenges of running these massive models, but what about the innovations that are making it possible?
Yeah.
What's happening kind of behind the scenes,
Right.
to make this technology more accessible?
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing remarkable progress in
Yeah,
areas like quantization and model compression.
absolutely.
These techniques essentially allow us to kind of shrink these massive models down.
Yeah.
Make them more efficient.
Right.
Easier to run on less powerful hardware.
Exactly.
So, I mean, instead of needing, a room-sized supercomputer, could someone potentially run these models on a more, affordable setup?
Potentially,
Yeah.
yes. It depends on the model. It depends on the task.
Right.
But these advancements are making it increasingly feasible for individuals and smaller organizations to experiment with and utilize, powerful AI.
Yeah, it's opening up a world of
It
possibility.
really is.
What about the development of new hardware? Specifically designed for AI workloads.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, are we seeing, specialized chips that can handle the unique demands of these models?
Yeah, absolutely. That's another really exciting area of innovation.
Yeah.
Companies are developing AI-specific chips
Right.
that are optimized for machine learning tasks,
Yeah.
and these chips can significantly boost performance and efficiency,
Okay.
making it possible to train and run, larger and more complex models.
So it's like the hardware is evolving in tandem with the software.
Yeah.
Creating this sort of symbiotic relationship that's pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
It's a fascinating dance to watch unfold.
Yeah.
The hardware innovations are not only enabling the development of more powerful AI, but they're also making, AI more accessible to a wider range of users,
Right.
which is incredibly exciting.
Let's circle back to the world of AI tools for a
Yeah.
moment.
Okay.
We discussed windsurf and the challenges it's been facing.
Right.
But the AI landscape is teeming with other tools,
It is.
each with its own strengths and weaknesses.
For sure.
I mean, how do we even begin to navigate this complex ecosystem?
Yeah, it's a crowded and constantly evolving landscape.
It is.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
Some tools are very laser focused on specific tasks,
Right.
like generating code or editing images.
Yeah.
Others are more general purpose,
Yeah.
offering a suite of AI powered features.
It seems like the lines are kind of blurring between different categories of tools.
Yeah.
We're seeing code editors with built-in chatbots,
Right.
image editors that can generate images with AI.
Yeah.
I mean, it's becoming this kind of melting pot of
It's
functionalities.
about integration, right?
Yeah.
So we're moving towards a future where AI is just seamlessly interwoven into our workflows,
Right.
and enhancing our productivity and creativity in ways that we're just beginning to explore.
With so many tools
Yeah.
available, I mean, how do we even begin to choose the right one for the job? I mean, it can feel a little overwhelming.
Yeah, it definitely can, and that's where I think, critical thinking comes in.
Uh.
It's important to evaluate your needs,
Mm.
understand the strengths and limitations of each tool,
Yeah.
and experiment
Yeah.
to find what works best for you.
It's a journey of discovery.
It is.
Yeah.
And don't underestimate the power of community.
Oh, yeah.
Read reviews, join online forums, ask for recommendations.
Yeah. Those are all great tips.
The collective wisdom of the AI community can be incredibly valuable in navigating this complex landscape.
Absolutely.
So don't hesitate to tap into that.
Yeah.
Tap into the knowledge and experience of others.
Right.
The AI community is generally very open and welcoming.
Yeah. It is.
And people are often, very eager to share their insights and kind of help guide newcomers.
So we've covered a lot of ground today.
Well, yeah.
From the rise of these open source models to the hardware innovations that are pushing the boundaries,
Right.
and the ever-expanding universe of AI tools.
Yeah.
I mean, the future of AI is looking incredibly dynamic and exciting, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's not just about the technology itself.
Oh.
It's about the profound impact that it's having on society, on the
Yes.
economy, on
Yeah.
our daily lives.
Yeah, we're just scratching the surface of what's possible.
Exactly.
And that's why it's so crucial to stay informed, to engage in critical thinking,
Absolutely.
and to really participate in shaping the future AI.
Yeah.
I mean, we all have a role to play in ensuring that this technology is used responsibly and for the betterment of humanity.
Well said.
Yeah, I mean, the future of AI, it isn't preordained.
No, it's not.
It's a future that we are actively creating
Absolutely.
through the choices we make today.
They're the choices we make today.
So now let's shift our focus to the ethical considerations surrounding AI
That's
and,
it.
its potential impact on society.
All right.
I mean, this is where things get really interesting.
It does.
So stay tuned for the final part of our deep dive.
Yeah.
Where we'll explore the profound questions that AI raises about our future. We've explored the rise of these open source models, the hardware innovations that are pushing the boundaries, and the ever expanding universe of AI tools. But let's be real for a second.
Uh-huh.
All this tech, it's just a tool.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. At the end of the day, it's a tool.
The real question is what are we aiming for with AI?
Mhm.
What kind of future are we building with all this?
That is the big question, isn't it? I mean, AI has the potential to revolutionize so many parts of our lives, from healthcare and education to how we get around, how we entertain ourselves. But, it also brings up a whole bunch of ethical and societal challenges
Right.
that we can't just ignore.
Yeah, I mean, we need to be thinking critically about how AI might impact jobs,
Mhm.
privacy, even our sense of what it means to be human.
Absolutely.
I've seen those sci-fi movies where AI takes over, and it doesn't usually end well for us humans.
Right.
But seriously, like how do we ensure that AI is developed and used responsibly? How do we make sure it's a force for good in the world?
Well, I think for starters, we need to be having these open and honest conversations about the potential benefits and risks. And it's important to include diverse perspectives in these conversations, right?
Right.
It's not just the tech wizards, but also ethicists, Social scientists, policymakers, everyday people, everyone's voice needs to be heard in this.
Like, we need this collective effort
Yeah.
to steer AI in the right direction, to make sure that it aligns with our values and aspirations.
Exactly. And it's not just about preventing harm, right? It's about actually using AI's power to solve some of the biggest challenges that humanity faces, like climate change, poverty, disease. I mean, imagine the possibilities if we could harness AI for good.
That's a future I can get behind. But let's be realistic for a second. We're still in the early stages of AI development.
Mm.
There's a lot we don't know, and the
Hmm.
technology is changing rapidly. It can feel a bit overwhelming.
It's true, but that's also what makes it so exciting, right? We're at this pivotal moment where we have the opportunity to shape the trajectory of AI. It's like we're standing at a crossroads, and the path we choose will really determine the future.
So what can our listeners do to be a part of this? How can they help build a better, more ethical AI-powered future?
Well, there are so many ways to get involved. Stay informed, learn about the latest advancements, and think critically about the ethical and societal implications. Don't just accept things at face value. Ask questions, challenge assumptions, and make your voice heard.
And don't be afraid to speak up.
Exactly.
Share your thoughts, ask tough questions, and challenge the status quo.
Absolutely. The more voices we have in this conversation, the better the outcome will be.
And supporting organizations that are promoting responsible AI development is another great way to contribute. There are some amazing nonprofits and advocacy groups out there fighting for ethical AI, pushing for transparency, and working to ensure that AI benefits all of humanity.
They're doing really important work.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the world of AI, let's leave our listeners with this thought. The future of AI, it isn't predetermined. It's a future that we're creating together. One line of code, one ethical decision, one conversation at a time.
Well said. The power to shape this future really is in our hands. Let's use it wisely.
That's all for this episode of The Deep Dive. Thanks for joining us on this whirlwind tour of the AI landscape. We'll be back soon with another deep dive into a topic that's sure to spark your curiosity. Until then, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep learning.